Hi, today we're going to get more specific with object-oriented program, and I start with a very simple type of object, and our first object that we're going to study is a towel. Let me scroll down a little bit. So the entire towel class is defined with this particular code, and you can see up here that I have declared public class towel. That's the code that I've written, just like we have started before. And remember that we talked about in class, a towel knows certain things about itself. It knows what it means to be a towel, and it knows what a towel can do. And so for this very simple class, I said that the only thing that a towel knows about itself is what color it is. Okay, we could do lots of things like the size and the shape and that kind of stuff, but this is a simple one. All it knows is a color. And you can see two new things here. Okay, we've never used the access modifier private. That's because when we do object-oriented programming, the idea is to not let other people mess with our objects. We have never had a data type that is a string before, but it is a data type similar to, but definitely different from, the primitive data types, the 8 primitive data types that Java has to offer. Here I'm saying that private, meaning the only thing that can access this particular data member is if you are in the towel itself. Okay, and that'll be more in a little bit. What data type is it? It's a string. And what do I name that variable? Color. So moving on down, we will learn the word constructor, and it's going to be a very important idea as we go along. Basically, a constructor makes the object, and so the only thing that we need to do to make a towel is to give it a color, because that's all the towel knows about itself. That's all it means for a towel to be defined. And so what we do, whatever color you want to give it to me, I'm going to call it S. I'm going to assign that. Okay, I had to fix something. In my fiddling around, I messed up the code. There's a lot going on, but I'm just going to explain it at a very simple level right now. So what we do is with this constructor, we make our towel. And what we're doing is we're taking a value that we're going to give it, and we're going to assign it to color. Because as you see, up here, color was not initialized. It was declared, and it's private, okay, only the class can grab it, but we don't have an assignment statement right there. And for classes, for objects, we're not going to. Okay. So let's move on to what does the towel have the capability of doing? What is its behavior? So a towel has behavior to set the color, to set its own color, and it has the behavior that it can be asked, what is your color? Okay, remember that that's the only thing that a towel knows about itself. So this is called a method. This whole thing right here is called a method, and this is called a separate method. And what a method is it's just a little subroutine. We'll go more into methods later, but here's what I want you to know right now. A method also has an identifier, and this method's name is setColor. This method has an identifier named getColor. So there are two methods, setColor and getColor, that are involved with this towel. So now if I were to go to run this particular, well, let me compile it first. I'm making code that the computer knows, and make sure when you compile you see that window pop up down here. I have mine so that when it's done it just goes away. But if I were to run this, here's an error that I would get. It says, let me scoot this down just a little bit. It says java.lang no such method error, main. What it can't do is it can't find main, and of course you see that I don't have a main method. So exception in thread main. process completed, but it didn't do anything. So it's not going to run because an object needs to be a standalone thing and be able to be used in lots of different programs. So for this particular one, I'm going to go right up here and I'm going to open, in my same folder, I have something called Towel Tester. So if you want to open more than one window in JCreator, you can just go to File, Open, like that. And whatever your active folder is now, it'll go to that. And so I'm going to double click on that, and you can see that I can toggle between both of these at the same time. Okay, so, or I could show both windows, but I'm not going to choose to do that. This is going to be called a driver or a tester class. Every single program that you write in Java has to be a class. Okay, but some of them are just objects, like a towel. We have defined what it means to be a towel. But some of them are drivers. We're going to use the towel. So, public class towel tester. This should look very familiar. Public static void main string array args. This declares a towel object. In all your variable declarations, what you did first is what you put down first is your data type. This is the data type, just like int, double, char. This is your data type. What identifier do I want to use? Cool towel. Okay, so that's the name of my towel object. And so you notice that I'm saying towel object as opposed to towel variable. And in all of the other primitive data type variable declarations, I could have said objects, okay? But it's a kind of a more general term. So I'm going to call this an object. And the syntax for declaring an object is very different than declaring a primitive data type. So you can see that we have a towel called cool towel is assigned. When you make an object, it's a little bit tricky. You have to word the keyword new. You can see that it's a reserved word because it's blue. What kind of new object do we want? We want a new towel. Okay, so it's a little bit redundant, but that's the syntax that Java uses. How do we want to create that towel? We want to pass it this string. And the string is green and white polka dot. So let's toggle back to the towel class, and we can see right here that the towel constructor, what makes the towel, needs a string. Okay, so that's what this piece of code said. Okay, so toggling back to this. Okay, so that's what we do. We make a new towel and we fill it up with the string green and white polka dot. And then we say system.out.println. My new college towel is, so we're going to concatenate something else to that. Remember, that's what that does. My new college towel is, so that's our literal string. And then in order to ask what the cool towel's color is, we use the identifier that we have right here and say, with this particular towel, I want to ask it what color it is. And so it's, I would read this cool towel dot get color. Okay, and you notice that get color is exactly what happens right here. Okay, that's exactly the identifier that a towel has, and you have to know that. You have to, a programmer has to go between the two files. So what this does is prints out your literal string, and then we've left a blank, so then it should print out whatever the color is for the towel. Okay, so now we make another towel object. Just like you can make multiple integers, you can make multiple towels. So we have another towel object. We call it fancy towel. Is assigned. These are the same. New towel. Okay, so you always have to do that. And we give it the string sparkly. Okay, and then we were being silly. I actually have this code from last year, and so we were being silly, and one of the students wanted to name it Towely. Okay, so we make a third towel. Towely is assigned new towel, and they wanted it to be rainbow. Okay, and so now what I do down here is I say system.out.println. I don't often use towels, but when I do, I prefer, there's our literal string, and then we concatenate that, fancy towel.getColor. So what color is fancy towel? We gave it sparkly. Okay, and then another SOP, look at the towely.getColor with the towel object named Towely, get the color. Okay. This file does have a main method defined. Here's the start, here's the end, right? And so when I compile this, I'll make sure that I get it to run, and that's fine. Now I'm not going to get that error because Java can only run something with a file that has a main method. And look down here, it's exactly what we would expect. That's for output. Let me go and focus on the top of this right here, and I'm going to highlight this up here. When you turn your files in, I'm going to want you to put a header on the top. And the header will always say three things. What is the assignment? Okay, so that will be the name of the file that I give you, and then your name, and then the purpose. And the purpose is going to be just what's the main idea of that, what was the task that I asked you to do. Okay, so there's going to be some flexibility on that. And this concludes the first lesson of how we would make our own very simple object.